Welcome back to today's News Talk. TNT, Lembit Öpik here till the top of the hour. After that, we've got Basil and Phil, of course. Now it's time for a clash of the titans. Elon Musk versus the Australian government. The eSafety Commissioner recently dropped its federal court case against Musk's X-Corp, also known as Twitter, or formerly known as Twitter, which refused to globally censor footage of a violent attack, igniting a fairly heated debate on internet freedom and government control. My next guest is a human rights advocate, Radha Stirling, who's kept a pretty close eye on this situation and recently penned a powerful piece on the implications of this legal battle. Radha, great to have you on today's News Talk TNT. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, no, good to see you again, Lembit. I think the last time we spoke, you were in Texas.
I was actually at the eclipse. I was at the solar eclipse trying to prove to some of my doubters that there is a sun and there is a moon, but I accept some people don't believe me on that.
Well, I hope at least you had a good time.
I saw the mother of all thunderstorms just after the eclipse. It was actually worth it seeing, just for seeing that thunderstorm. Really, it was remarkable. Turned Dallas into a brief river. But I'm back in Blighty. I'm pleased to have you on here because you know the latest on this remarkable legal case where Musk stood his ground. What's the story here?
Jay, it's so interesting. I think Australia has long been the testing ground for authoritarian sort of endeavours. And I think that America actually uses Australia to test how the citizens are going to respond in different situations. And I think this is no different. It's unbelievable that as Elon Musk referred to her, the eSafety commissar tried to censor a video that was going viral, essentially, but it was also going viral all over the world. There was no blood, there was no gore, there was no pornography. And she insisted that X remove it from not only accessibility to Australian citizens, but also worldwide. And the action that she was taking against him was absolutely doomed to fail. So Elon Musk, being a free speech advocate, took her on, as he has been doing in very many other cases, actually, and said, I don't think that this is in, a conjunction of Australian laws. So I'm going to take you to task. And she said, okay, let's do it. And she employed at taxpayer, with taxpayer money, the most expensive KC in Australia and the most expensive legal team, and said, let's try to get this particular video censored on the worldwide internet. So Australia would therefore be dictating to the entire international community what they can and cannot see according to Australian law. So obviously that was doomed to fail from the onset. There's no way that could be possible. For example, imagine if Saudi Arabia tried to censor something for the entire world's internet. It just wouldn't happen. So why on earth did Australia think that they could possibly achieve that? So she sued Elon Musk. Elon Musk fought back against her, and she ended up having to withdraw her legal case against him because it just had no merit. There was no way that was ever going to win under Australian law or any other international law. It was quite egregious in that most Australian citizens actually opposed that kind of censorship. I think when it's on the Daily Mail, when it's on the international news, why shouldn't Australians be able to see what everyone else is seeing on the media? And the video in question in particular was an attack on a bishop in Australia, and the bishop himself supported Elon Musk, saying, I want people to see what happened, this attempted attack on me. And still the Australian Censorship Committee went after Elon Musk, ultimately having to withdraw.
Isn't it amazing that we have an Australian Censorship Committee, Orwellian in its all its worst aspects? The question, rather, is what was their intention? Is it to wrap us all up in cotton wool? Why do they think we're not capable of making our own judgment, indeed, about whether we want to watch it? Because it wasn't compulsory viewing.
Absolutely, it wasn't compulsory. And again, it was on the Daily Mail and various other international media outlets. But this particular individual has been lobbying for powers that we haven't seen before, the kind of power that would say you need a license to access the internet. If you're under 18, you need to get a license to access the internet. And of course, it starts with the under 18s because we're protecting the children. And then what does it end with? We all need a license to access the internet. And if we don't behave as the government would want us to behave, perhaps we don't get our license anymore. So I think the ultimate goal here, and although in this particular case, legally, Elon Musk has won and embarrassed this woman tremendously, she has come to the ABC, which is almost a sort of equivalent of the CNN. I was going to say BBC, but actually they're more like the CNN in that role that they play in advocacy. And she sought refuge in them. And she was almost crying that Elon Musk had demonized her and called the dog whistle to, and now she's getting death threats and she's only trying to protect the children. But we've seen the mainstream media, the ones that make their money from you subscribing to their services, upset that more and more people are turning to platforms like X to get their news media. And they've actually said that because she lost this case against Elon Musk, that they actually want to talk about Australia forcing companies to obtain a license to operate. So that would mean, maybe TikTok, maybe X, maybe any corporation who doesn't follow the government narrative would be required to have this license. And if they don't abide by the rules and regulations that these government regulators are proposing, that they would not be allowed to operate here. And the only way you would be able to access those platforms is with a VPN. And of course, if that happens, the next thing they do is go after the VPN. And it's a constant battle between the people and the government to be able to access normal and genuine information that they need to be able to exercise their democratic right to vote. Without that information, they don't have it.
It seems that this lady would like to make it a crime to issue material which might cause offence. I wonder how we have sunk so far in the West away from free speech and self-determination, while at the same time, Radha, criticising China, for example, for censorship. Does anyone else in Australia see the irony?
I think most voters see the irony, but I think what we need to see is something coming forward, because at the moment you've got two parties that all defend, the two major parties that you see anywhere, like in America, they're all defending this woman who is acting against the people to censor true information that we need. We need that intelligence to be able to determine who we're going to vote for at the next election. That's being absolutely censored. And it's coming to the point where people won't even be allowed to access the internet without a license, without permission, because we're not voting in the way that they want us to vote. It's not only ironic, it's just the most Orwellian sort of oppression of the people. And most of the Australian population is actually standing up against this. They want to be able to decide for themselves, for their children. Don't tell me that my child needs a license to access the internet. That's my decision. It's my parental responsibility. And I don't defer that to the state to make those decisions for me and my family. So I think we are seeing a lot of pushback coming from Australia. But the issue is, at the government level, you've got most parties supporting these oppressive bills that are being rammed through without any public consultation whatsoever. So I think that's where Australia is going. We need people in power to stand up against those laws that are coming through, because I think if Australia lets them go through, it's going to be another example. The US, the UK, they can say, well, Australia's doing it, New Zealand's doing it, Canada's doing it. Why don't we do it? It's the norm. It's the social norm.
Can you finally, Radha, do you think this could be made into a significant electoral issue, which would cause parties to try to compete on the basis of free speech rather than censorship?
I believe that this has become probably one of the primary voting issues for many constituents throughout Australia and throughout the world, because without or with censorship and without freedom of information, we don't have the knowledge or the ability to decide for ourselves in a democratic society who we should vote for, because all of the information is being censored. So I think freedom of speech has become the primary voting concern for constituents.
Thank you so much, Radha, and I wish you were standing. You'd be a great Australian Prime Minister, I think. That'd be the dream. The dream team, Nigel Farage in the UK and you in in Australia. Then we sort out the world. And
looks
Donald
like
Trump
Nigel's doing well, yes, with his
He is
recent
doing well.
announcement. Yes, yeah, a lot of
Very-
support.
and very big on free speech as well. I'm very impressed with him on that.
Exactly.
Radha Stirling, thank you. Radha Stirling in Australia, joining us there.